Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another Henrico's Environmental Action Resource Team podcast. My name is Jeff Wydell, and I'm with the Henrico County Public Relations Department. And I'm very excited today because we're here with the Chief of Staff for Henrico County, Cari Tretina. She's also one of the co-chairs of our group today. So, Cari, hi. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I love talking about the environment, so I'm happy to be here today.
Excellent, excellent. Well, our group has been coming along fairly well. Why don't you give us a brief on really what the H.E.A.R.T committee is?
Absolutely. So the H.E.A.R.T committee, which has been recently branded, but it started off as just the environmental committee. It came to fruition because the government itself, Henrico, has been really active in environmental initiatives since 2013. And before I get into the H.E.A.R.T, I do want to talk a little bit about those efforts.
Okay.
Because every department has really taken it upon themselves since 2013 to figure out how to positively impact our local ecosystem, right?
Right.
So if you look at our buildings, what we've done when we construct new park facilities or schools, we get some kind of LEED standard, a high standard of efficiency. So we have 22 of those buildings since 2013. We have 6 rooftop solar systems, and so that traverses both school and county properties. And now we're looking to install solar systems at landfills. Yeah, talk about a great use of vacant land. We've restored 15,000 feet of stream. So we've helped water quality by, re-regulating erosion and sediment that's been impacting our stream beds.
Mm-hmm.
We've conserved more than 2,000 acres of historic, rural, and riverfront properties in eastern Henrico. 2,000 acres.
Wow.
That's incredible.
It is amazing.
And 2.5 miles of one of those properties is just the James River. So think about what's possible from a passive recreation perspective and conservation. We've expanded mass transit. It's been actually the largest expansion in GRTC's history, or our bus system here in the greater Richmond area, to cut down on commuter trips. And then recycling. That's been really a hot topic in the region, but we're rolling out 95-gallon recycling carts to 90,000 households.
Wow.
Just in Henrico County. So hopefully, that will cut down on what's going to the landfills and what we can reuse within, manufacturing. And those are just some of the areas that we've been doing for over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
So the H.E.A.R.T committee was centralizing all those efforts and bringing better collaboration amongst all of the county agencies and schools to think about what we can do from an economies of scale and not just within our own department. So that's really how it came to fruition. I think we've been meeting 6 months, maybe a little bit longer since then, and man, have we been busy. So.
And one of the things I think is really cool about this committee is that we have a mixture of different people in the county. It's not just the people that have the detaily stuff, but it's the people that are also in different departments that add a different point of view.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You have entry-level employees, you have higher-level management, you have people who work in policy, who work in technical, who work in program management. It's really the gamut of the type of workforce representation that we have. You have tenured employees, you have employees who this is just a passion of theirs,
Right.
Or it's an emerging trend. I like to bring up the fact that the Sports Entertainment Authority is represented and is very active.
Right.
Because that's ESG, so environment, social, and governance efforts are becoming very popular within corporate and tourism sectors. And so it's important that they stay engaged in what the county is doing to help attract more of those opportunities.
Right. And another thing too that, and I know I'm kind of jumping around, but one of the key focuses that we want to try to do is get the word out to the community. We're working on a website, but one of the things that I've been able to participate in, you as well, is community outreach, about really getting out there and meeting people. And so we've had 2 events so far that we've been involved with: Earth Day, and then we also had the opening of the farmers market at Dory Park.
Yeah, you had, I remember both of those times the booth was busy the whole time.
Yep.
And people were talking about a variety of things when they were coming up to community members. They were asking us, well, who are you first off, right? Because we're a new group, so we got to, help brand ourselves. But they wanted to learn about recycling. They wanted to learn about, our land policies and our development policies. One that's open for public comment and input now is called our comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that dictates what the county looks like in our development patterns for decades, right? But then they also want to know, oh, well, what's going on with public utilities? I heard that the Springfield landfill is going to have solar. What is that? How's that going to benefit me? So it's
Right.
really cool the different aspects of sustainability that our community is involved in, and we're able to respond to that.
Right. And I love the fact that people that are into environmentalism are showing support for what we're doing, but also the people that are on the fence about what they can do. They're responsive as well. They're responding in a open-minded, positive way.
Absolutely. When we first started talking about this with the Board of Supervisors in December, they actually directed Steve Yob and I, who's the code chair. He's more of the technical think tank. He's our chief engineer for the county. Is like I branded him that, But they wanted to get more stakeholder involvement. So right now we're helping develop a youth council. So students within Henrico County Public Schools that are interested in environmentalism to help us get that perspective from young people. And then we're also looking to add from our adult population representatives from each magisterial district who can help inform us from all different backgrounds, academia, business, engineering, development. We're really seeking all of that input because at the end of the day, we only have one planet and we all live on it.
Right.
So we all need to contribute to what is the next 10, 20, 30 years going to look like, not just within Henrico County, because what you do in your local ecosystem impacts the macro.
Right. And really and truly, we are looking at a situation where we need the input from the community, because we can look at regulations and things like that as far as development and things like that we can modify. But if we're not being realistic about it, we're not getting much accomplished.
That's so true. And I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing that the H.E.A.R.T committee focuses on is what we can control. Because there are things I would love to be able to regulate a lot of aspects of things that just aren't right, dumping and littering. I want to be able to do more in those areas than just a fine or relying on other levels of government to do their part.
Right.
But we can't, because we're local government. We're at the very bottom of the totem pole when it comes to our authority within environmental regulation. But we can control a lot. We can control what we do with our own facilities, our own construction activities. We can help provide clean water to as many people as we can. And that's something that I think people forget is a portion of environmentalism and sustainability, reliability, is having access to our natural resources and not damaging them.
Right.
And so Bentley Chan, our director of public utilities, is on our committee along with many representatives from that agency, because it's so important and we have control over it. We have control over our water and sewer system. So why don't we do something about it? And so the Board of Supervisors actually put money in this budget to continue to connect our residents who are on well and septic to our system, right? So that's just one kind of major infrastructure example. But we have been getting some feedback from the community about, well, what else can you do? Well, let's talk about it, And so adding those voices onto our committee about what is our sphere of influence in Henrico and how can we maximize our opportunities in that sphere.
Right. And one of the things that I'm excited that we're on the edge of getting into is increasing our tree canopy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something we can affect. As you mentioned, we may not be able to regulate air quality as far as emissions, but we can still help it.
We can plant trees, right?
Yay!
That is, I love talking about trees. I'm not a physical tree hugger, but I do I do think that they are a critical tool in our tool belt when it comes to sustainability.
Right.
Not only do they help with carbon sequestration, but they also help with drainage issues. They improve our water quality, and ultimately they help with biodiversity, right?
Yep.
And so the more that we can plan, and the more that we can measure about how to keep our existing tree canopy healthy, because that's reforestation is not just about cutting. When you cut down a tree, you plant another one, or you plant a similar native species or as close as you can get that's
Right.
not hurtful to the ecosystem. You measure and maintain what you already have. That's
Right.
so important. It's a three-prong process. You have to inventory your existing tree canopy. You have to develop your plans, your reforestation plans, based on that inventory. And the inventory includes species, health, age of the existing infrastructure or tree canopy, and if there's no trees there,
Right.
right? I mean, that's the inventory is, oh, yeah, there are none here. So then the second phase is developing the plan based off of the data. And then the third portion is implementation. So
Right.
not only just planting the trees, but continuing to measure all of the data sets that you were collecting in the inventory phase and making sure that you're not doing things like mulch volcanoes. I've recently learned that term where you over mulch a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I could actually talk about a reforestation program for this whole podcast, but that is, to your point, something very easily that we can do and that we can partner with, because one thing that the Board of Supervisors always encourages is building our partnerships, because we can't do it alone.
Right.
Like you said, every citizen, every resident, every business individual, every non-governmental partner, and the government, we all play a role.
Right. And one of the words in our community, our committee's name is action, and we're taking action by doing things like this. We want to get things going. So another thing that I just wanted to address as well is that as Henrico County government, we want to show by example. So we're looking to reduce our resource use, save energy, variety of things like that. Don't you think that's important?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's it, not just in environmentalism do we want to lead by example. We've led by example in other areas like fiscal stewardship and business-friendly environment. So why wouldn't we? All the things that I just mentioned before about what we've done since 2013, I don't hear about other local governments having, 22 lead buildings or 15,000 feet of streams restored. I
Right.
mean, those are significant. And every time that the committee meets, we're getting closer and closer to having more of those examples for others to follow.
Right.
I mean, we met about a month ago, and we're going to meet, I think, next week.
Yeah.
And each subcommittee, I believe there's 5 subcommittees now. They've all developed a series of short-term and long-term goals. Some of those include looking at other renewable energy sources. So not just looking at solar. What can we do with some of the energy that from water? What can we do with our existing plants, whether it's at our water reclamation facility or our landfills, to convert some of that gas to power, right? We're already doing it on at the Springfield landfill. What about more? What can we do more with not just solar, but other renewables?
Right.
Our water committee, to the point of telling people what we're doing and showing by example, we haven't been doing a good job of showing the community all the things that we have going on. And so I think the short-term goal for our water subcommittee is focusing on promoting all the activities. Like we have a rain barrel program.
Right.
And I don't think it gets used that much, or a lot of people don't know about it. And maybe they do know about it, but they don't understand the benefits. And so we want to be able to provide that. They also have a great initiative for the development community. So showing the development community all of the environmental incentives they can gain for including sustainable aspects into their construction projects and when they're building communities. So sometimes it's about doing things like extending pipe and, thinking about infrastructure, but then other times it's about just having those conversations and putting the information out there. All of that is action that the committee is taking every day.
Right. And, it's interesting, too. There's another subcommittee that we have that maybe a lot of times people don't necessarily think about sustainability environment necessarily. and that's the mobility and active transportation.
Right.
And one of the big things that we want to try to get people to think about is using non-powered means of transportation and how that can affect our carbon footprint.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. You talk about air quality. You plant trees, but also encourage people to stop driving their car as much. Now that's difficult in Central Virginia, right? I mean, we don't live in places like Europe where it's really well connected and they have high speed rail.
Right.
But we've extended our bus routes and increased the times and added representation actually onto GRTC's board of directors, and we have 3 representatives now when before we were just considered a customer.
Right.
We're also looking to implement a bike plan as part of our comprehensive plan that I mentioned earlier. We've never had a set goal of, by 2033, we want to have these certain lanes available or connection points for bikes.
Right.
We're looking to add more multi-use paths. So not just bike lanes, but pedestrian and bikers, and connecting more public places, right? So we have pockets in the Brooklyn district and in Fairfield where we have a library and a rec center, but they're not connected by sidewalk.
Right.
Well, what if we did that?
Right.
How could that help communities that surround those amenities? And they're not far. It'd be a very easy walk on a August day when it's really hot outside. But yeah, multimodal activities are really important because the less time your car is on, the better it is for our air quality.
Exactly.
And it's just figuring out smart ways of achieving it because it's also not inexpensive to build sidewalk and roads and connect bikeways. So I think what's interesting about that subcommittee is they're thinking of cost-efficient ways as well. So instead of building a bike lane, are there ways when we're paving the road and we can just restripe it differently?
Right.
So that it still protects the biker, but we're not spending $5 million.
Right. And we're looking at things that we can try to accomplish sooner than later. And that recipe of sooner than later, a lot of times is being smart about what you already have.
Absolutely.
You know. Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, we've gone over a lot of stuff. There's anything else you wanted to include? We're doing so much.
Well, I just really encourage everybody to stay tuned. I mean, you've done quite a few podcasts now, right?
Yep.
You did one about worms.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think the more they stay in tune with your podcast and all the other efforts that the outreach subcommittee is trying to maintain and grow throughout, the next couple of months, and just reach out. I mean, you can easily find me on the county's website.
Right.
Steve Yob, like I said, is my co-chair. He's always willing to get technical and to work through interesting engineering ideas. But just encourage the general public to continue to stay engaged. We need you.
Very good. And we can't forget about the fact that we have our friend here, Stuart, our eco turtle, and he always mentions to choose to reuse and to try to be good stewards of the environment. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. Good information.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you all next time.
Sounds great.
Bye.